Hey everyone, welcome to NFL video. This one we're going over my favorite value plays for week 7 of the NFL season on Draftkings. Now again, these aren't my most favorite plays in the world this week, but to be able to fit in guys like Leonard Fournette, Chris Carson, Cooper Kupp, Evan Ingram, we got to use some of these value guys to be able to fit in our lineups and get some salary relief. So we're going to go over the guys that I am targeting in these low price ranges. But anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. We're getting somewhat close to 3,000 subscribers, so I want to thank you guys again very much. It really means a lot. And also, a little announcement, NBA videos will be coming out soon. I'm going to try to do those pretty much every single day. Weekends are iffy because, I'm really busy with football, and that's number one priority. But I will be trying to get out NBA videos pretty much as I can, so that we have that to look forward to. And you can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And if you're interested in the spreadsheets, I make every single week. Links in the description below for my Patreon. And I also will be doing NBA spreadsheets as well and have a Slack chat. So anyway, that's enough plugging. Let's get into this video. So quarterbacks. I personally want to spend a bit quarterbacks this week, but if you are going lower end for your quarterback position this week, I got two guys I don't mind, but I would really recommend getting a 6K above range for quarterbacks, but let's talk about Gardner Minshew first at 5,400 versus Cincinnati. The Bengals will be without Drake Patrick and William Jackson, which is they're both starting corners, and it's not like the Bengals defense is great anyway. So now they're losing two starters, so it's a bump to the passing game for the Jaguars. Cincinnati is 30th DVOA versus the pass. They're allowing 22.6 points per game to quarterbacks this season, which is 7th most in the league. Minshew is at least 16 points in 5 out of 6 games this season. Last week was the horrible one where he only had 5 points versus New Orleans, but that is an outlier. And I don't typically like playing quarterback running back combos because if you guys have been watching any of my videos, or really anyone's videos, it's not just me, everyone's talking about it. But we're all in Fournette this week, everybody, not just me. But Fournette's also involved in the passing game quite a bit, so the two aren't exactly an awful correlation play. So, you can play them together, and maybe they hook up on a receiving touchdown, then you get points per Minshew as well. And I can't see a lot of people playing Minshew this week, so I'm going to, reserve him for GPPs because, like I said, you guys know who I love for cash games and quarterback this week. I like Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, Kyler Murray, those kind of guys. So I'm not really too interested in spending all the way down at quarterback, but GPPs, if you want to spend up in other places, I don't mind Gardner Minshew. And he also has a cool mustache, so we had to add that on there. That adds about 2 points projection on my sheet, so I had to throw that in there. Jacoby Brissett at 5,600, the beef brisket himself versus Houston. Houston's secondary is beaten up right now, just like Cincinnati's. And Roby's out, and others are questionable. So we'll have to see who's all in or out, but still, it's a bad secondary. They're giving up 22.9 points per game to the quarterback position this season, which is 6th most in the league. We got a 47 over-under here in Vegas, so I do think this has some sneaky shootout potential, especially with both teams having banged-up secondaries. And everyone and their mom is playing T.Y. Hilton this week, and they're going to skip right over Brissett, which I get. So I think this makes for a good GPP stack. And I really shy away from Jacoby in cash because I already said who I'm playing in cash this week for quarterback spot. But no one's going to play Brissett, and honestly don't mind the GPP stack there. His main wide receiver, T.Y. Hilton, has absolutely shredded the Texans every single year pretty much. And he's averaging, Jacoby Brissett, he's averaging 18.8 points per game this season, which is not too bad at price of 5,600. And I think he's got 20 plus point upside here in this matchup. But, Houston's being killed by quarterbacks this season. So I think he makes some sense in GPPs. Now we'll go to the running back position. And Josh Jacobs, I've been talking about him all week. You guys know I like him a ton. And again, not a lot of people are talking about him. And I don't get it. I think he's an awesome play this week. So if he's going to be low owned, I guess I'll take it because I like him a lot. But he's 5,000 versus Green Bay, and I just kind of copy and paste the slideshow I had earlier in the week, but I changed up a couple of things in the background color because I thought black looked a little aggressive, so I changed it to silver. But he's coming off a huge game versus the tough Bears run defense. He got 26 carries and 3 catches for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. His volume potential at this price screams value to me. I believe he's top 3 value option on my sheet for running backs this week, so I definitely like him a lot. And he had 3 targets last game, which were encouraging because they did say they wanted to get him more involved in the passing game, which they did a little bit. It's not like he's some elite pass catcher on this offense, but he can catch the ball. But this is a great matchup versus Green Bay. They've really struggled with running backs this season. They're 28th DVOA versus the run and allowing nearly 30 points per game to running backs, over 100 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown as well. Oakland also has a great matchup in the trenches. They have the 4th best defensive line run blocking matchup of the week, so Hole should be able to get open for Josh Jacobs, and he should be able to take advantage. He's got, I think he's a pretty good talent. He was a first-round talent in the NFL draft. I believe in him. I like the guy a lot. And Green Bay is also missing a lot of weapons, and the Raiders have gone from 6-point underdogs in Vegas to 4-point underdogs in Vegas, which is, that's a pretty big jump. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. And that's great for Jacobs' potential, because the only concern here I would have is if the Raiders fell behind early, and then they, tend to use DeAndre Washington more in the passing game. But I think this game stays close, and maybe the Raiders even pull one out here. I know it's going to be hard to do in Green Bay, but I think it stays close. They're going to use Jacobs. The Raiders are missing Tyrell Williams. I mean, they're not going to be able to pass the ball too much. Green Bay's got a pretty decent pass defense anyway, so they're going to look to run the ball, and that's what you can do versus the Packers, and Josh Jacobs can handle the workload here. I think we can get 20 to 25 some touches here out of Jacobs as long as this game stays close, and he just makes a lot of sense for me this week. So if he's going to be low owned, I'll take it, but I don't get why. I mean, I think he's a pretty easy play this week at 5K. Devontae Freeman at 5,400 versus the Rams. Again, I love this game for fantasy. It's got the highest total on the slate at 54, and he's picked it up after a cold start to the season. He's had double-digit points in the last 4 games. And I'm mainly interested in him for his involvement in the passing game because he's been pretty bad on the ground. He has not been efficient. He's averaging a 3.6 yards per carry, which is not good at all, but he is averaging over 4 targets per game and even has a 9-target game as well under his belt. So he is involved in the passing game. He had 2 receiving touchdowns last week, and he also had 1 receiving touchdown the week before, so I do like that a lot. And this is just cheap exposure to the best game on the slate, and I think most of his damage is done through the air, which is great for PPR scoring format like Draftkings. So I think he's got a somewhat safe floor. I mean, I know he's had some clunker games, and he's not been that great on the ground, but his involvement in the passing game, he should be able to get it done. I would be surprised if he doesn't get double-digit points. He's got 20-point upside as well, so don't mind Devonta Freeman. Kerryon Johnson at 5,100 versus Minnesota, and I'm actually seeing a lot of sites having him at pretty decently high ownership, and on my own sheet it's got him, I believe, in the double-digit ownership range. And I mean, I get it. Volume, he gets a lot of volume. With the departure of CJ Anderson, he's seen his snap rate go from 68% to 74%, all the way up to 83% last week, which obviously great at someone that's 5,100. Usually we don't get that at this price tag. Detroit's got the 3rd best offensive line versus defensive line run blocking matchup of the week. Minnesota is 4th DVOA versus the run this season, but they've had an easy schedule when it comes to opposing running backs. Like, it's been pretty bad. I don't remember the exact game log, but, I looked at it before I made this video, and I'd hope their run defense looks pretty good after who they faced. And also, these are also running quite a bit of routes this season, and consistently sees a few targets per game, which, obviously boosts his floor a little bit. He's not a huge factor in the passing game, but it's nice to know that it's available if needed for him. So I don't mind Kerryon Johnson. I actually like the guy a lot. I think he's a pretty talented dude, and I love him in season long the past 2 seasons. So, I guess I'm a Kerryon truther, and I think he should be fine in this game. He's 5,100. I do like Josh Jacobs more than Kerryon Johnson this week, though, but they're very similar. I think they're both pretty good values. And then the last running back I want to talk about is Tevin Coleman at 5,600 versus Washington. I mean, he's getting a little bit pricey in this value video, but 5,600 I think it's cheap enough. But first 2 games back from injury, he's averaging 17 carries. He had 16 versus Cleveland and 18 last week versus the Rams. As a high volume rushing offense, they're running on 55% of their plays, which is most in the league. So the opportunity is going to be there for sure. He's took over lead back duties over Breida as he played 55% of the snaps compared to Breida's 36% last week. They're 10-point favorites, which is obviously great for the running back on said team, which would be Tevin Coleman on the 49ers. Washington is 18th DVOA versus the run this season, and they're allowing 29.4 points per game to running backs, which is 5th most. So if Tevin Coleman's going to get me near 20 touches or even more than 20 touches, and he's a little bit involved in the passing game, it's going to be hard for him to not hit value, especially if he gets a rushing touchdown. So definitely like Tevin Coleman 5,600. I can't see him having too much ownership. I don't think he's going to go unowned, but he's probably going to be about 5 to 8% around there. So don't mind taking a shot at Coleman in GPP. He's not a cash game guy for me, but I think he'll be fine. But Mr. Chalk this week, most likely, Allen Lazard, the Lizard King, at 3,000 versus Oakland. So it looks like Green Bay is going to be without Adams, Allison, and MVS this week. MVS is still questionable. He's got a chance to play. Maybe they push him to play, considering they're going to have no one at wide receiver this week. But they have not practiced all week, so I'm going to have to assume he's going to be out, and that's going to push the Lizard King to the wide receiver 1 role on this offense. And he seems to have great chemistry with Rodgers already, which is, it's a huge thing with A-Rod. You saw him with Jordy Nelson. They had a great chemistry, and you saw how that went. I'm not saying Lazard is Jordy Nelson whatsoever, but I know Rodgers asked Lazard to a specific play during the game last week, something like that. So, that's a lot of trust in the young guy. So, it's a positive thing to see. Oakland is 26th DVOA versus the pass, and they're allowing 41.2 points per game to wide receivers this season and 1.6 touchdowns per game to receivers, which is quite a bit. And he's going to be extremely chalky as long as all those 3 guys are out. So Lazard, he's pretty much a free square this week, so I don't mind loading up on him. It's going to be hard for him to not hit value. Brandon Cooks at 5,400. So he's a GPP play only for me. And he's going to be the lowest owned of the trio of Cup, Woods, and Cooks. But I like his potential to hit on a deep ball here, too, in this matchup versus Atlanta, and it's kind of the same reason as I liked Fuller a couple weeks ago. Rams' O-line has been bad, as was Houston's, but Atlanta is 32nd in adjusted sack rate this season, and they're the worst team in the NFL generating pressure. They're only averaging 0.83 sacks per game, and Goff is a pretty solid, decent quarterback when he's got time to throw, but he's really trash under pressure. You guys saw that last week. But he should be able to have time to throw here. Atlanta is 30th DVOA versus the pass and allowing over 44 DraftKings points per game to wide receivers, which is near league worst. And he's got the highest average depth of target on the team. Kupp and Woods they're possession guys. They have low A dots, but Brandon Cooks is the guy that can take the top off the defense. And if he's ever going to do it, it's this matchup right here. So I definitely like Brandon Cooks and GPPs. In cash games, I'm loading up on Cooper Kupp, so it wouldn't make sense for me to want to play Cooks and Kupp, although I think they're both going to have fine games, but I just don't like completely stacking on my cash lineup just in case bad things happen, which can happen with Jared Goff. But so next thing I want to talk about is in the same game on the opposite side, Calvin Ridley at 5,300 versus the Rams. So Jalen Ramsey is now in town, so we'd have to assume he's going to shadow Julio Jones, which would direct our attention at these secondary options for Atlanta with such a high over-under. We got a 54-point over-under on the highest on the slate. He's going to be facing a backup corner as they traded away Marcus Peters. And he's got the lower target share of the Julio, Hooper, and Sanu group, but he also has big play upside. He's got the highest average depth of target on the team at 14.3, even higher than Julio Jones. So, he's got boomer bust potential. He's got a boomer bust nature to him, but I think we see more of a boom here. I mean, I can't really see him busting. Points are gonna be scored. Both quarterbacks are throwing the ball a ton. Both teams can't run the ball great right now, so it's gonna be high. There's gonna be a ton of passing in this game. I think this makes a lot of sense for Calvin Ridley to have a pretty big game here. He's not a cash game guy, but definitely like him in GPPs. And I know a lot of people are talking him up, so it wouldn't be surprised me if he's got some decent ownership in GPPs. Can't imagine he's gonna be too chalky in cash games, but GPPs, yeah, I think he'll have some ownership for a good reason, though. And then last guy I'm talk about is DK Metcalf at 4,800 versus Baltimore. Tyler Lockett should get the Marlon Humphrey shadow, which is never ideal. So that would, just like we talked about Calvin Ridley, it's going to lead us to the secondary options here, and that would be DK Metcalf. And they're also not going to be without Will Dissly anymore, so you're going to have to think more targets are going to be, go towards Metcalf and the other receivers. The Ravens are 23rd DVOA versus the pass this season, allowing 38 points per game to wide receivers and nearly 200 yards. This is not the same Baltimore defense you guys are used to in the past. He's playing roughly 70% of the snaps, so he's going to be on the field, which I definitely like. A guy like that's 4,800. This is one of the highest totals on the slate at 49. The Seahawks have a 26-point implied team total, which is one of the highest on the slate, so points are going to be scored. And he's got big play upside. He's got the highest yards per reception on the entire slate at 21 yards per reception, which is obviously going to be the highest on the team. So DK Metcalf, I think he makes sense in GPPs. He's got big play potential here, and he's going to get the softer coverage between the two guys. So do like Metcalf. And then the tight end, I only got one tight end because I'm not playing anyone below Hunter Henry. He's 4,000 versus Tennessee, and he's just way too cheap for how involved he was last week. He saw 9 targets, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Not saying he's going to do that again, but, he's always been good when he plays, and he had 10 points week 1, 33 points week 2, or not week 2, what was that, week 5, week 6, or whatever. Yeah, week 6. But this is going to make him extremely popular, but it's for good reason. This is going to be a pretty ugly game, though. Titans-Chargers, both offenses have been pretty rough so far, but I think Hunter Henry should have a pretty good game here. And I wasn't sure how involved he was going to be last game, but he saw 66% of the snaps, which obviously was a very positive sign for the guy that's coming off an injury, so I have to assume that gets even higher, probably 70-80%. And at 4,000, I would take that all day for a guy Hunter Henry's got talent, is what I'm trying to say. I can't get the words out, but definitely like Hunter Henry at that cheap price tag. And I think that's going to be it for this video. I hope it was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, again, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Really appreciate it. I'd like to get to 3K soon. That would be absolutely awesome. For some reason, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at ChrisPennell16. And if you're interested in the spreadsheets about every single week, links in the description below for my Patreon. If you got any questions, you can comment below or whatever. And I think that's going to be it. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and I wish you guys the best of luck on Sunday.